Ethan wakes up tired again. Not exhausted, not miserable, just tired enough to accept living this way. The alarm rings 3 times before he moves. His room is quiet, his mind already feels behind. He checks his phone before getting out of bed. Messages, bills, people buying things online. For a few minutes, he forgets his own life, watching everyone else live theirs. The coffee machine sputters slowly. He stands there staring at nothing, thinking about how fast every month disappears. He tells himself this month will be different, not dramatically different, just slightly more responsible. He says that often now, quiet promises, small resets, tiny negotiations with himself. By lunchtime, the feeling is already fading. Work stress replaces intention again. Someone orders food for the office. Ethan joins in immediately. It feels easier than thinking. $40 disappears casually. Not enough to feel dangerous. That's usually how it starts. He tells himself he deserves small comforts, long week, stressful morning, bad economy. Every purchase has a reason attached to it. That's what makes the cycle hard to notice. Later that night, he checks his bank account carefully again. His breathing changes slightly. Not panic. Just that familiar pressure he's learned to live beside. He closes the app quickly, as if avoiding the number changes the reality underneath it. Welcome to Lion Invests. Most people think making more money will change their life, but usually, the real problem is the invisible pattern underneath their behavior. In this video, we break down why $500 a month can make you rich and why you ignore it. If you want to understand money and behavior differently, subscribe. This isn't really about money. It's about the patterns people repeat without noticing. Ethan thinks his problem is income. And honestly, sometimes it probably is, but there's something else happening underneath that. Something quieter, something automatic. Every month begins with optimism. Every month slowly becomes survival again. The strange part, he genuinely believes he's trying. And he is. Just emotionally, not structurally. Now compare that to Marcus. Same city, same paycheck, same rising prices. Marcus still feels stress, still gets tired, still wants comfort. But his life doesn't constantly reset itself because his behavior isn't built around reacting. On payday, Marcus never sees most of his money. Part of it moves automatically into investments before emotion enters the conversation. Ethan waits until the end of the month to save. Marcus saves before the month even begins. The difference sounds small at first, almost boring. But boring systems quietly change entire lives. Ethan treats saving like a leftover decision. Marcus treats it like a bill. One person relies on discipline, the other relies on design. That changes everything over time. Ethan opens social media after work. Someone his age just bought a new car. Suddenly his own life feels smaller, even though nothing actually changed. That feeling stays with him longer than he realizes. Comparison has a strange way of creating urgency. A few hours later, he buys something online he didn't plan for. Not because he needed it, because he needed relief. Most emotional spending doesn't feel emotional in the moment. It feels reasonable, temporary, earned. That's why the loop survives so long. Marcus feels the same pressure sometimes, the same envy, the same temptation to escape stress quickly. But he built friction around his impulses. Small delays, small systems, small interruptions. At this point, everything still feels manageable. That's what makes the pattern dangerous. Most people don't notice their future changing in dramatic moments. It happens quietly. One repeated behavior at a time. $500 feels small. That's why most people ignore it. It disappears easily. Food delivery, car upgrades, weekend spending. But repetition changes the meaning of small things, especially over years. Eventually, the gap between two lives stops looking mysterious and starts looking predictable. Ethan thinks rich people must think differently, and in a way, they do. But not always in the dramatic way people imagine. Usually it starts with smaller decisions repeated consistently. Marcus doesn't wake up more motivated. He just removes more opportunities to sabotage himself. His investing happens automatically every month. No debate, no emotional vote. Ethan still treats investing like a future version of himself will handle it. That future version never fully arrives. Every month feels temporary to him, like life is about to stabilize soon, so he keeps postponing long-term behavior, waiting for the right moment to become disciplined. But the right moment is usually just emotional comfort disguised as planning. The pattern keeps feeding itself quietly. Ethan works hard all week. By Friday night, he feels mentally depleted. That's when the spending gets easier. Not because he's irresponsible, because decision fatigue lowers resistance. People rarely destroy their future dramatically. Usually they leak it slowly. Subscriptions, impulse purchases, tiny emotional escapes, none of them feel life-changing individually, but repeated behaviors eventually become identity. Marcus understands something Ethan doesn't notice yet. Environment shapes behavior more than intention does. So Marcus changes the environment instead of relying on willpower. His savings increase automatically every year, even when he forgets about it. His investing app sends fewer notifications, less stimulation, less emotional interference. Ethan checks his balance constantly. Marcus checks his system occasionally. One person watches money emotionally, the other manages it structurally. Same stress, different response. Ethan gets anxious whenever unexpected expenses appear. A flat tire feels like a personal attack from life, because there's no cushion between him and emergencies. Everything feels urgent when your system has no margin. Marcus still dislikes unexpected expenses, but they don't emotionally destabilize him anymore. Over time, small preparation creates psychological calm. That calm changes decision-making itself. Ethan thinks confidence comes first, then better behavior follows, but usually it happens the other way around. Tiny repeated actions slowly change how people see themselves. Marcus no longer sees himself as trying to get better with money. He sees himself as someone who builds systems. That identity changes his behavior automatically. Identity quietly filters decisions before emotions even arrive. Ethan still negotiates with himself constantly. Spend or save. Comfort or discipline. Now or later. Marcus made many of those decisions once, then turned them into routines. Freedom often looks boring in the beginning. Quiet investing, consistent transfers, simple habits nobody notices. But years later, the results become impossible to ignore. Ethan sometimes wonders where all his money went. The answer is uncomfortable because it felt harmless at the time. Most destructive patterns don't announce themselves clearly. They blend into normal life. That's why people can stay trapped for years without realizing it. They think they have an income problem, but often they have a behavioral repetition problem underneath it. The difference was never intelligence or luck or even income. It was identity. One person reacts to life, the other designs it intentionally. Most people never realize they're living inside patterns they didn't choose, patterns built by distraction, comfort, impulse, noise. And if you never stop long enough to see them, you can spend years believing your life is the problem, when really, it's the invisible system underneath your behavior shaping your future quietly. But once you finally see the pattern, you can interrupt it. And that's where change begins.